Hi, welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith. In this episode, we're going to learn the 1 to 4 player game, Legacy, the Testament of Duke de Crecy, designed by Mikhail Hendricks and published by Portal Games. For some, being a wealthy aristocrat in 1729 would be enough. But not for you. You want to be amongst the most socially elite, have vast estates, and pursue noble endeavors. In short, you want to create the most distinguished family legacy. And that's what you'll get to do in this game. So join me at the table and let's learn how to play. I'm going to set up a 2-player game in this example, which starts by laying out the main board. These are the title and contribution cards, marked as 1, 2, and 3, representing the 3 generations that this game will take place over. So to start, we place the Generation 1 title cards on this side, and the Generation 1 contribution cards on this side. The order doesn't matter, and the remaining generation cards should be set aside for use later. These are the child cards. Now, while some are special, with text written on them, most are basic boys and girls. And you're going to need to remove 9 of each of these basic boys and girl cards from the deck to be used if you run out of child cards in the final generation of the game. Shuffle the remaining children and then place them here on the main board. These are the Mansion and Venture cards. You place a certain number of them on the board based on the number of players. In a 2-player game, you'll use 3 of each. In a 3-player game, you'll use 5, and in a 4-player game, you'll use 7. The cards are not unique within each stack, so they don't have to be shuffled, and any unused ones are returned to the box. These are the missions. Shuffle them and place them here. If you're going to build a legacy, you're going to need friends. This is the deck of friend cards. It should be shuffled and placed face down. Then the top 5 friend cards are placed face up beneath the main board. Honor and prestige isn't going to come cheap. To cover your expenses, you'll use these gold cards, which you can sort into a bank area near the board. There are also 3 of each kind of additional action pawn. You'll want to place these in a central location as well. These patron cards should be shuffled and 1 dealt randomly to each player. They represent a famous person who will reward you for a hidden objective you can work on throughout the game. There are also additional objectives you can unlock later. So don't show this to anyone and return the rest to the box. Each player is now randomly dealt 1 head of the family card. There is both male and female sides, and they have slightly different values. So place your chosen side face up in front of you. Over the course of the game, you are going to be building a family tree that will extend downward from the head of your family, at most taking up 4 rows, like this. So when you start playing, ensure you have lots of room for those future family members. Based on the color backing of your head of family portrait, collect the following pieces with a matching color: a personal player board, 2-player action pawns, and 3-player markers. The unused player pieces are returned to the box. Now each player should place a marker on the 0 space of the income track and the 0 space of the prestige track. Income is represented by the sack of gold icon and prestige by this shield. There are several icons in the game and also summarize them at the end of the video. The main board also has an honor track shown here, and all players should add 1 of their markers to the 0 space. Honor points are also represented by star symbols that you'll find on the main board and throughout the game. You'll notice there's a couple of them right here. Looking at your head of family, you'll see some icons that represent your starting items. The first icon represents the face-down friend stack. Draw this number of cards from it into your hand, keeping them secret. So I would draw 5 friends. Again, this symbol represents the growth of your income. So 1 bag of gold means you increase your income by 1 space. The next symbol represents gold, and this shows the amount that you'll start the game with, which you draw from the bank and place beside you. And finally, in addition to your 2-player action pawns, you will collect the additional action pawn from the general supply that matches the color shown here. Now randomly choose a player to take the starting player card and put the green marker on the first space of the generation track on the main board. This indicates the current round of the game. And that's the setup. Legacy is played over 3 generations of your family's growth that are broken into 9 total rounds of play. You keep track of these here on the main board. The symbols here will also help remind you of important steps along the way. During rounds, you will place your 2 action markers and possibly additional action markers that you've collected on either the action spaces of your player board or the main board. This will allow you to arrange influential marriages, collect money, manage your friendships, and gain nobility as you attempt to increase your honor, which is tracked here on the main board. At the end of the game, the player with the most honor wins. During a round, the first player puts one of their action pawns on any action space. There are 4 available on your personal player board and 6 on the main board. After placing your pawn, you resolve the action, and then the next player in clockwise order places one of their pawns and resolves the action of that space. This continues until all players have placed as many pawns as they wish to or can. The 2 pawns you have in your player color may be placed on any of the action spaces, but additional action pawns that you may have can only be placed on the main board on actions matching their color. On your personal board, you may take the same action more than once, but only 1 pawn may be placed on each space of the main board. And keep in mind, you can only take an action if you can pay its cost and are able to resolve its effect. As long as you have pawns in your player color, you must continue taking actions, but you may save any additional action pawns you have for a later turn. Just know that unused additional actions are lost at the end of a generation. No matter which actions you take, they will only affect the current generation of your family members. So at the start of the game, when we're in Generation 1, our actions will be affecting the head of our family primarily. We may marry them off, take them to a fertility doctor, help them get some children. But once we reach the 3rd generation, the head of your family is now the grandparents. So you won't be taking actions to get them married again or give them more children. Thank goodness. Now that said, you will be able to take one particular action to arrange marriages, which will affect future generations, but we'll see that in just a moment. Let's start by taking a look at the different actions and explaining how they work, starting with the ones found on your player board. By taking the marry action, you must now choose one of the friends in your hand to marry to one of your family members from the current generation. You show they're married by placing their 2 cards next to each other. This friend must be of the opposite sex, and if there is a cost showing in the top right-hand corner of the friend card, that is the cost of the wedding, so you must pay that back to the bank. If the value is positive, it typically means you've gained a dowry, meaning you'll collect gold from the bank. All friends come with certain effects that resolve from left to right 1 time when they are first married. For example, if I married Pierre, the newspaper owner, I would pay 2 gold back to the bank. Then my income would increase by 1. So I would adjust this right away on my player board, and then I would gain a red additional action pawn. Many friends will have an occupation and nationality symbol. Certain card effects can benefit or hurt you based on these symbols found within your family. As I said, the effects found on friends only resolve once, at the time they enter your family through marriage. But in some cases, say if you were to marry Roger, the effects occur over the course of the entire generation, but that will be listed directly on the card. You'll notice marrying Roger instead of Pierre will cost you a lot more for the wedding, but the benefits are improved as well. Instead of going up by 1, our income would increase by 2. And because Roger is an aristocrat, he brings prestige with him as well, which we track here, adding 2. But there's no reasoning with love. We're going to stick with Pierre for this example. After the effects of the marriage have been resolved, the couple has a child. Draw a card from this deck and place it face up beneath the married couple. There are 3 types of child card: male, female, and complication at birth. When it is a male or a female, place it with the child side up. The card will be flipped around to the adult side when the next generation begins. Some children will also have a special effect, but this will only resolve when the text is right side up. So for this child, when it comes into play like this, we'll ignore the text. If you drew a complication at birth, you must make a choice. lose the child, or lose the mother. If you lose the child, your action is over. No child is born. If you decide to lose the mother, discard her and draw cards from the child deck until you draw a child, which you will then place beneath the father. However, a complication at birth cannot cause you to lose the head of your family. So this would only happen if you draw a complication at birth during the first generation and your head of family is female. In this case, you would have to choose to lose the child. Whichever you choose, leave the complication at birth card next to your current generation. You may only be affected by a complication at birth once per generation, so this will remind you to ignore future complications and continue drawing until you find a child. Now that we've seen the different things that can happen, let's assume that our happy couple's first child arrived without any difficulties. You may have noticed that this action allows you to marry or arrange a marriage. This means that instead of marrying a friend to a family member in the current generation, you are betrothing them to a child in a future generation. So let's say on a future turn, I decide to place my action pawn on this space once again. Remember, on your main board, you can take the same action more than once. If I had an unmarried family member in the current generation, again, I could marry them to one of the friends in my hand. In this case, all of my current family members are married. So I will choose the arrange marriage action, taking Thomas, the promising cadet, and arranging a marriage to my daughter here. When a marriage is arranged, you must still pay the cost shown here, or receive that value in gold if it's a positive number. However, we do not receive the benefits of this marriage yet. Remember, we're still in the first generation, so this child is a child. That's why we place Thomas's card upside down as a reminder. As we'll see later, at the start of the next generation, all of the arranged marriages will be resolved, and then the benefits will be received. Even though the game only lasts 3 generations, you'll likely have a 4th row that'll be made up of the children and arranged marriages of that 3rd generation. And the final row will often score you points based on the patron card that you drew during the setup. But we'll take a look at that a little bit later. The next action on your board is to have children. There are 2 options here. For no cost, you may choose a couple from your current generation and add the top card of the child deck to their family. When you add a child to your family this way, you don't know what you're going to get. Will it be a male or a female? Perhaps I was looking for a female. Maybe I'm thinking it's time to arrange a marriage with Roger here. Well, this male child's not going to do me any good. So you have another option when you choose to have a child. Instead of paying nothing and drawing randomly, you can employ some socially questionable practices to ensure the gender of your child, but you're going to lose favor socially, which is shown by this symbol. The star represents your honor, and an X through it means you lose 1 honor point. Remember, honor is tracked on the main board, so I would move my marker backwards 1 space. Now you announce the couple having a child and the gender they wish to see, like I might say, I want to see a daughter. Then I will draw until I get a child of that gender, or a complication card. Either way, you then shuffle any rejected child cards back into the deck. If you draw a complication at birth while looking for a specific gender of child, then once again you're going to have to decide, will you discard the mother or the child? If you choose the child, your turn immediately ends. If you choose the mother, then once again you discard her and continue drawing child cards until you find the gender you were looking for. And also, no single couple, unless otherwise stated, can have more than 3 children. What good are friends if you can't count on their help every now and then? When you use the Ask Friends for Money action, you can take 2 gold from the bank. If you don't mind begging them a little, you can collect 3 gold, but you're going to lose 1 honor. And if you're totally shameless, collect 4 gold from the bank, lose 1 honor, and also discard 1 chosen friend from your hand. Clearly your friends are finding you a little too high maintenance for their taste. Did you lose too many friends to all that begging? No one left in your social circles to marry off to your children? Well, don't worry. Use the Socialize action to get some new friends. For no cost at all, you can just collect any one of the face-up friend cards beneath the main board. Or if you're willing to throw some money around, spend 1 gold and collect any 2 of the friends. Show everyone a real good time spending 2 gold, and you can collect any 3 of those friends. When friends are taken from beneath the main board, they are not replaced until all of the friends are gone. So after an action in which I collected 2 friends, the board will look like this for the next player. There is, however, a very important rule about collecting friends. If an action causes you to take the second last remaining friend, then you get the last friend for free. Let's say I socialized spending 1 gold so that I could take 2 friends, and I chose this one and this one. Because 1 friend remains, I would automatically get this friend as well for free. Then all of the empty spaces would be replenished from the top cards of the friends deck. Let's say instead there had only been 2 friends here, but I socialized, paid 2 gold so that I could collect 3 friends. In that case, I would collect these 2, replace all of the friend slots, and then choose my 3rd and final friend from all of those options. Now let's take a look at the actions on the main board. First is the option to acquire a title. Sure, it may cost you some money, and you may lose some of your lower class friends, but it could be worth it. Simply pick any one of the titles you want, pay the associated cost, and then claim it. You then claim the reward of the title by assigning it to one of your family members. In this case, our prestige increases by 2. If your family member is married, then the title is technically assigned to both of them. In a hurry to add children to your family, hire a fertility doctor at a cost of 2 gold. And because of the questionable science involved, you're going to need to discard a chosen friend from your hand. You now declare the couple who will be receiving the fertility treatment and add 2 children cards from this deck to their family. But remember, no couple can have more than 3 children. So in this situation, let's just pretend they only had 1 child. Now I would draw this card, and I would draw a second card. It's important to draw these one at a time in case you draw a complication at birth which needs to be resolved. Maybe your family is looking to improve their accommodations. Why not buy them a mansion? It's going to cost you 3 gold, and you'll have to discard one of those jealous friends in your hand. All of the mansion cards are identical. They simply allow you to increase your prestige by 2. When you claim a mansion, flip it over and place it like a title to one of your family members, or if they're married, attach it to the couple. If you're struggling to make ends meet, maybe it's time to invest in a venture. Discard 2 chosen friends from your hand and reduce your honor by 1. Then collect a venture card in the exact same way that you collect and assign mansions. The benefit of these is that they simply increase your income by 1. Once again, all of the cards in this deck are the exact same. The benefit of claiming these is that they are in a limited supply, and once they run out, they're not replenished. Looking for fame and glory, maybe it's time to embark on a mission. Place your action pawn here and discard 1 friend from your hand. When you take this action in Generation 1 and 2, simply draw 2 of the mission cards, placing one face up in front of you and discarding the other. The mission will list a set of requirements you can attempt to accomplish. During one of your turns in which you can complete your mission, you may do so, earning the reward stated below. This doesn't take up your action, so you can do this before or after placing a pawn. If you use an action to undertake a mission in the 3rd generation, instead of drawing 2 mission cards, you only draw 1 and you don't look at it. You just place it face down underneath of your patron card. That's a bit mysterious, I know, but don't worry, we'll explain the benefits of doing this a little bit later. The final action allows you to contribute to your community. Like acquiring a title, you pick one of the available cards shown here, pay its cost, and then add it to either a family member, or if that member is married, to the couple. You then get to claim the reward shown on the bottom. When it comes to titles, mansions, ventures, and contributions, no family member or couple, as the case may be, can have any more than 1 of each type, but they can have a combination of them. For example, this couple could not have 2 titles, but they can have a contribution, a mansion, and a title. When you get into the later generations, you may be able to acquire more than 1 title, for example, assigning one of them to this couple and another to this single family member. After the players have taken all of their actions, resolve the end of the round, shown by this symbol here, which instructs all players to collect gold from the bank equal to their current income. For example, my current income is 2, so I would collect 2 gold from the bank. Now players retrieve the action pawns of their color, and any additional action pawns that were played are returned to the general supply. You then move the round marker to the next number of the following round and pass the starting player card clockwise. This player then places one of their action pawns first, and players continue to take actions as normal. At the end of a round that completes a generation, once again players will collect their income as normal, but there are some additional steps. First, all of the players will score honor based on the prestige showing on their personal prestige track. My marker is currently on the 4, so I will collect 4 honor. My opponent didn't do so well and only gained 1. The honor, prestige, and income tracks are not limited to the values you see on the boards, so you could raise your income beyond 10, and your prestige could fall below -1. You just need to keep track of that in some other way, perhaps on a piece of paper. Now the players score 1 honor for each child born to a family in the current generation. So during the first generation, I had 1, 2, 3 children. My opponent only had 1. Boy, my opponent is not doing well. You'd almost think I planned it that way. If no children were born to your family during a generation, well, your family line has come to an abrupt end and you've lost the game. As a final step, at the end of a generation, return all unused additional action pawns to the general supply. At the start of the second and third generation, there are some additional steps. First, this symbol tells us that a single player should collect one of each of the colored additional action markers. That player randomly distributes 1 to each player, returning any extras to the general supply. Then this symbol indicates that all of your children in the upcoming generation have grown up. In the order of your choosing, now rotate each of your children to their adult side. If they were part of an arranged marriage, you gain the benefit from that friend card immediately. Thomas, the promising cadet, gives my family 2 prestige. I also gain a red additional action marker and +1 honor if I have another artist in your family. This is the icon for artist. You'll see a slightly larger version of it here, but also on Pierre's card. So that means I've satisfied this condition and I gain the benefit. And don't forget, all newlyweds automatically gain a child. If in the previous generation you had had a complication at birth, a card would be here to remind you that it cannot occur again during that generation. Now that we're in a new generation, this card should be removed so you don't get confused, because this new generation can receive at most 1 complication at birth when drawing for children. If it happens, then place the complication at birth on this generation's line as a reminder that it can't happen again. Finally, all claimed title and contribution cards from the previous generation are removed. And then the new title and contribution cards for the following generation are placed out. These come from the stack of cards that you set aside during the setup. At the end of the third generation, there is one last step of final scoring, which is shown here. This is where players see if they succeeded in achieving their patron objective. Players can now publicly reveal their patrons and check the first box to see if they succeeded. For example, I will gain 9 additional honor if I have at least 7 income. Remember, in the third generation, if you undertake a mission, you can then place it underneath of your patron card. Having it here allows me to choose one of the other minor objectives listed at the bottom of the card to also complete. If you took 2 mission actions in Generation 3, then you'd have 2 face-down cards here, letting you score points for both of these minor objectives. After that final scoring, check the honor track. Whoever has the most points wins the game. If there's a tie, the tied player with the most friends wins. If there's still a tie, the tied player with the most prestige points wins. If there's still a tie, the tied players share the victory. Now there's just a few extra things I want to go over. For example, there's no maximum hand size. You can and should try to get as many friends as you can. Also, everything is public knowledge except for your friend cards and your patron. If you're told to discard cards, create separate discard piles for the different types of cards and just put them there. If you run out of friends in the friends deck, shuffle the discarded friends pile to create a new one. If a mother is discarded due to a complication at birth, and the survivor of that coupling is not a friend card, in other words, it's one of your previous child cards, then with a future marry action, you can give them a new spouse. The survivor always retains any children he or she had, and they will count towards the 3-child limit of the new couple. We covered many of the important symbols found in the game, but the rulebook includes an excellent summary of all of them, so let's take a quick look. These 4 icons represent an increase in your income, gold taken from the bank, prestige, and honor. Of course, these 4 symbols represent a loss in each of these items. There's also 3 symbols related to the friend cards. When you see this one, you can draw a friend card from the face-up ones beneath the main board. This means you discard a friend from those in your hand, and this allows you to draw friends from the top of the friend deck. Finally, this icon allows you to gain the additional action pawn that matches its color. And there are symbols for each of the nationalities, occupations, and generations. Sometimes a card effect will refer to the members of your family. For example, Beatrice will award you with +1 gold for each other artist in your family. You include all other artists from every generation of your family, including those who are part of arranged marriages that have not resolved yet. Think of it this way: if they're in your family tree, they're part of your family. And that's everything you need to know to play Legacy, the Testament of Duke de Crecy. Now, there are some additional rules if you want to play the game solo, but I'll leave those to you to discover on your own. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to put them in the comments below, and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. I'll even put any common questions and answers that might come up in the very description of this video, so you might want to check there first. But until the next episode, thanks for watching.